Welcome today to Phenomenal Conversation with Pavel Luksha. Pavel's transforming his years of work in the educational sector and now is working on civilizational transformation and scholarship. And before I ask Pavel to introduce himself, I'm just going to give the new listeners or watchers a little bit of a summary on Phenomenal Conversations. So Phenomenal Conversations try and co-create regenerative worlds and regenerative cultures, and we do that by interviewing change makers that are living the change, such as Pavel. We try to expand imagination in the midst of the polycrisis. We try to amplify meaningfulness and nuance in a chaotic world, and then we also try to ask profound questions. So that's the summary of the mission. We have two formats, the regular one-on-one format that we're doing today, and then also 2 or 3 times a year we have a live format where I interview the change maker and we have a collective conversation and harvest the results of the collective conversation, so have collective wisdom as well. And you can find the audio recordings on my website or on Spotify, and the videos are uploaded to YouTube. So that being said, very, very pleased to welcome you, Pavel. I've known about your work for quite some time, and we've worked on programs together. Would you like to give an introduction to people that may be unfamiliar with you, particularly maybe emphasizing your background in education and learning?
Thank you very much, Dave, for this opportunity to be here today. And just to quickly recap. So I started my career as what I can call a corporate warrior.
Right.
And I had quite a successful career. I was working in Russia, working with oligarchs, billionaires, at the age of 25. And then felt like my soul is not feeling like I don't belong there. I need to go somewhere else. And after years of soul searching, I discovered that I want to work with long-term futures, like problems that are really challenging for the majority of humanity, but not properly addressed.
Yeah.
And I saw like shortcoming of business leaders and political leaders thinking that led me to futures work and future work about future of our children. So I started working in education about 18 years ago and created massive movements of teachers first in Russia, and then also worked on a national level with initiatives to rebuild up secondary education, higher education at a scale.
Right.
And part of my work kind of spilled over to international arena. I formed a think do tank called Global Education Futures, which primarily was focused on bringing like long-term thinking into education itself, because most of educational conversations about transformation are about, let's say, mending the existing system, whereas we need a radical transformation of the existing system. And in a way, I in this work, with many of my colleagues who hold similar views, we thought that this can be seen as a vehicle for systemic evolution of our culture, of our society, by learning different things, both for children and adults.
Right.
That was the idea that led to the formation of some initiatives such as Weaving Lab, where we initially were bringing educators that are weaving these learning ecosystems.
Yeah.
But I also increasingly started to see that it's not enough, that we really need to use education as a lens, but move into other sectors and work with their transformation. And because in 2020s, we started to see how polycrisis effects start to, let's say, kick on all of us, starting with COVID and then wars in Russia and Palestine and now in Iran. I started working with peace building with my colleagues from Learning Planet Institute. And also on issues of regenerative futures. We formed an initiative called U for Earth, which is about a space for learning about regenerative cultures and regenerative entrepreneurship. And more recently, of course, AI is one of the biggest challenges. So a lot of my work is dedicated to systemic and social effects of AI upon us, all of us. Mm.
Great, because I think in that introduction, you've covered some of the territory that I'm going to be asking you questions about. And when I first encountered you, we worked together on a future learning program calling it using Protopia as a term. Many people will be familiar with utopia, but Protopia is not so well known. Could you explain a little bit about how Protopia, approaches the futures you were, and how it fits with the futures you're trying to design?
Mm. Yeah, so Protopia is an approach to future that I started developing about 15 years ago, taking it from Kevin Kelly, who introduced the term. And in Kevin Kelly's idea, he was talking about incremental improvement towards better future. So it's like a counter perspective to utopian views, which could never be achieved really, and some often lead to frustration. We know that many unrealized utopias really led to the opposite, like with communist utopia. Dystopia, of course, is another way of dealing with future, which is like, this is the future we don't want to go towards.
Yes, yeah.
But neither utopia nor dystopia offer us the direction where to go. Like maybe utopia does, but again, this idealistic frustration is something that also kicks in quite fast. So Protopia is about how can we make our future better every day. But working with this paradigm, I realized that we also need to not just hold this optimistic view, but really also encounter systems where they are, like be present with this moment and see how can we prototype better version of, let's say, this future. And begin with ourselves. So a lot of Protopian approach for me is about seeing ourselves as not just change makers, but embodiment of the change we want to see. So prototyping the future begins with our own lives. How can we be so that, for example, right now leads to this work that I call inner architecture, which is how can we, with our lives, prototype something which can help us architect a way to deal with this complexity of current environment and all the challenges we are facing, the long-term challenges, the very present challenges, how we can deal across the temporal perspectives and so on. So that's Protopia to me. It's about being the change we want to see. And hoping for better future, holding this radical hope, but realizing you will not have a utopian leap. You will have to work towards this day by day, and sometimes despite this despair that you can experience.
So it's sort of, you're trying to encompass the reality rather than have some ideal. I've heard that some visionary change makers, for example, Gandhi, they lived that future themselves, even though it wasn't obvious around them. And of course, he came up with that saying, be the change. And also, just for listeners that are interested, I interviewed somebody called Manda Scott, who's a writer, well-known writer, and she, I think, proposes something similar called Throughtopias. So I think she's talking less about the inner architecture, but what are the ways to get to that desired future, put that into action today, which has some similarity to you. Give us an example of how, what somebody might do to prototype, with their inner architecture to begin with. Give us an example that you think could be relevant to people listening and watching.
Well, something that is really close to me, that I've been exploring for many years, is holding multiple horizons. Temporal horizons in terms of but maybe also systemic horizons around your own actions, your own initiatives. So it's basically a mental exercise in a way, or mental habit, where you start seeing how you don't just work on immediate problem or immediate challenge or with this particular organization, but how can you see your work in a larger context
Yeah.
that is sort of enveloping it and in longer term.
Yeah.
So can you see your own work as a seed of something that
Yes.
sort of begins to over time evolve into something else? So I think it's a kind of gardener attitude that
Yeah.
you start to develop. When you plant a seed, you know this is not the tree that is going to grow there. That may take 20 or even 50 years, but you already start imagining this future garden, and you start building up relations today so they inform this future garden as it sort of matures. And decisions you are taking begin to transform, because
Yes.
if you hold this horizon, you start saying, right now this could be easier for me.
Yeah.
But if I do it, then it will lead to this longer term problem over maybe 5 years.
Yeah.
So I should do something else. It takes a little more effort in the beginning, but it gives more robust longer term results.
A great example, and I think many people will relate to the need for that, because so much inner architecture is just focused on I and not the horizons or systems you're talking about. So,
Yeah, and for me also inner architecture, and that's also where I think we need to somewhat evolve. For example, beyond the inner development goals paradigm.
yeah, yeah,
We cannot just say inner architecture is about inner.
yeah,
In a
yeah,
way, it's an inner space, but it's also a collective inner space.
yeah,
So in between, the
yeah,
we-ness is a crucial part. The relational part is a
yes,
crucial part of this future we are forming. How I relate to the other, how others relate to me, this Ubuntu thing, or because I
yeah,
am because of you.
yeah,
Without that dimension, we cannot really move ahead.
yeah,
And so inner architecture is also, in a way, outer
yeah,
architecture, but only outer as long as we see others, as
yeah,
not me.
yeah, 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 yeah. That makes sense. So if we're moving on, because you talked about the transformation of education in Russia when you were a part of those programs there, and you've recently focused on the universities and their need to transform. What do you see, if you can, in short, say 2 or 3 things that they're really struggling to adapt in today's 21st century climate, as it were, or life conditions?
So first of all, I want to say that university is a very interesting system.
Yeah,
Um, it holds a quiet but impactful role in our society. We look at politicians, we look at captains of businesses, but a lot of decisions about how to think, what actually holds importance, come from the university space.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's a form of power,
yeah,
and its power is based on what we can call epistemological legitimacy.
yeah,
It's about like telling what things are true and what things are not
yeah,
true,
yeah,
and actually teaching the next generations ideas that university professors think are true.
yeah,
So in that regard, universities have been, in a way, flourishing for the last maybe 70 years in
yeah,
the post-Second World War
yeah,
period,
yeah,
because they were in demand. The industrial society was expanding, and they needed more and more of these people stepping into professional roles, working in knowledge economy, in decision making, and so forth.
yeah,
Um, but right now, I think universities begin to sense that they are entering maybe one of the biggest crises
yeah,
in terms of their current format. And the biggest catalyst of this crisis, I think, is AI, but
yeah,
it's not the only
yeah,
catalyst. So actually, the poly crisis, if you think about it, to a large extent has been produced by the current epistemological systems. So
yeah,
by the way we see the world, why
yeah,
we think what is important. Like,
yeah,
for example, treating nature as something separate from us, as something that is passive, So not seeing the complexity, the, let's say, evolutionary feedback.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is like, I know that the universities are their thinking is evolving. I'm not criticizing that it's like not building a straw man perspective, but I'm
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
for a very long time, universities have been building paradigms that taught leaders how to think in those terms.
Yeah.
And many still do, especially outside environmental science and so on. The several types of crises that we see are all related to what we can call missions of universities, education, research, and impact or social mission. So in all of those sectors, universities held a unique position for many years, for many decades, where they kind of worked with this elite or more advanced part of younger population, helping them build their thinking, their ways of acting. They were building up the most advanced knowledge, and they were helping like transform society around them. Now, if we think about it, in all of those sectors, different formats emerge, such as learning ecosystems, the new forms of professional learning platforms, research institutions that are specialized centers, including corporate labs, and of course the rapidly growing non-governmental sector. All of them sort of overtaking, the ecosystems are overtaking this unique role that universities were holding.
Okay, yeah.
So on one hand, there is no monopoly, and then AI comes on top of this. And AI basically is undermining this epistemological legitimacy, the foundation of where university stands.
Yeah.
Who knows what the truth is? And people no longer, and we're just in the beginning, and think just 5 or 10 years ahead, people no longer refer to universities as ultimate truth holders.
Yeah.
People no longer need to learn from university professors, these guilds, to actually understand how to act in the world. They can ask AI and use AI as their personal mentor. So the fundamental foundations of power that universities were holding are now shifting.
Yeah.
And my argument is that universities are needed. I'll come to that later, but they are only needed if they rediscover their purpose. So the current purpose is outdated, and that's the crisis they're facing.
Yeah. And you mentioned setting up the Weaving Lab, and your latest report, which I'll link to after the podcast, recommends the kind of task, the skill, the awareness of a weaver. How do you see the role of a weaver enhancing or embracing the challenges you just outlined? How does it meet the moment, as it were? How does the weaving as a professional, whatever you might want to call it, meet the need of the modern university?
So maybe very short part of the story is that when we were forming what we now call the Weaving Lab, which is a professional community of social weavers, people who like connect spaces, integrate, create ecosystemic connections. Part of conversation was how should we best call them? Because my idea was that on one hand, yes, they are weavers, but maybe this metaphor of leaving role, the gardener role, is even more appropriate.
Right.
And the difference between weaver and gardener for me in those archetypes is weaver connects what's available, and I argue this is more of a role that is familiar in more developed, societally developed spaces where you have many initiatives working, you have businesses, you have governments. They just work in silos, and your role is to be that integrator, to connect them.
Yeah.
Gardeners sometimes work in a void. They work in an empty space where a lot still needs to be catalyzed, still need to be launched.
Yeah.
So they partially need to be initiators themselves. They need to plant ideas. They need to seed new formats, and then they need to also maybe sometimes cut and prune.
Yeah.
something that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Um, so the second archetype is important. But going back to weaving as integration,
Yeah.
um, especially I think in the Western European and North American reality, the reality of developed industrial systems, we are dealing with this specialization.
Yeah.
And specialization is a bless and a curse.
Yeah.
And as a blessing, it actually allows us to go deeper, to perfect, to improve. But you also sort of form these rigid systems
Yeah.
where if you try to change part of the system, especially when we need the paradigm change, such as when we deal with things such as regenerative economy, it requires radical rethinking
Yeah.
across supply chains, the way we do our work, the way we relate with our habitats, and so on. Like it's fundamental. We cannot change part of the system. We need integration.
Mm.
So weaving is about connecting different players. It's about connecting humans, connecting generations,
Yeah.
and connecting aspects of knowledge, types of knowledge.
Yeah.
Not just knowledge that is interdisciplinary, but also recognizing that maybe a lot of this knowledge is held outside the rational paradigm, that it
Yeah.
should come, for example, from indigenous knowledge systems.
Yeah.
So different types of integration of knowledge, relationships, and organizations and institutions,
Yeah.
that is what needs to occur. And the question is, who are the best holders of this position? And my argument, together with my colleague Francois Tadei, was that universities are among the established institutions
Yeah.
that, by their social position, are it's assumed like universitas, like
Yeah.
this idea that you hold the whole perspective, the whole universe inside this system. They should be the ones, and they are
Yeah.
not the ones. The
Yeah.
the problem that we did not mention in manifesto, but it actually is evident, is that they themselves are holding to particular types of knowing which they prioritize above others. Talking
Yeah.
about epistemological legitimacy,
Yeah.
they prioritize rational ways of knowing
Yeah.
that are logical, that are, let's say, science-based, which sort of give them this legitimacy for a very
Yeah.
long
For
time.
sure. Yeah.
But this is not about the universe.
No.
This is not about, like, we also have intuitive ways of knowledge, body, somatic dimension. We have poetry and art, and these are not seen as central
No.
to what universities are doing right now. It's like marginal. We can always inform the core, but the core still remains this very rational perspective.
Yeah.
And it's not holistic. So the question is, how can we truly integrate? And that's the role of we.
Brilliant. It's a great summary. And I don't think we can do justice to all of your thinking on that, but that really encapsulate it. And one of the things you've mentioned, which is a big influence and disruptor to the current model of the university, as AI. What do you see as the dangers, but also the opportunities that AI brings? So there's a lot of scare stories out there, and of course, I think we're right to be afraid, but there are also potentially opportunities we might be missing if we're panicked by its emergence.
Yeah. So first of all, my interest in AI remains there for many decades. I actually wrote my own neural networks in my research projects about 25 years ago,
Right.
before this became popular.
Yeah.
And then I actually modeled what we now call agentic systems. So,
Right.
but for research purposes only. And then, of course, when we were looking for at the question of future of education,
Yeah.
since 2012, 2013, we were exploring how the incoming future AI models can transform it. And our idea was that we need to get prepared exactly for that type of transformation. Right now, the future is here. So that's like
Yeah.
we've been waiting for it. It's been anticipated. Some very smart people have been waiting for it since 1970s when these kind of technologies first started to appear. So if you read, for example, Stanislav Lem, and he is both philosophical and fictional writing, he actually talks a lot about AI. So
Right.
there are thinkers that sort of form this, decades before it actually manifested itself.
Yeah.
Um, Now I think we are in the zone where we start to see how these technologies can impact us.
Yeah.
And I don't think we are yet close to a true manifestation.
Right.
And no one knows actually how fast it will happen. And the spectrum is enormous. Like some
Yeah.
people say that by 2027, basically in a year from now, there will be a form of general artificial intelligence that will surpass any type of cognitive work that humans can do,
Yeah.
and we will all be made redundant. Like
Yeah.
we are no longer needed. Like
Yeah.
I guess two AIs talking would have a better podcast than you and me. That's a possibility
Yeah.
coming very, very soon.
Yeah.
Some others say that we're sort of plateauing. We're getting to a more smooth development. There will be possibility for societies themselves to adapt. And by the way, this is why I'm also interested in the role of governments.
Yeah.
Because government, in a way, holds that unique position of actually moderating how fast technologies penetrate our society, how radically impactful they are for our cultures and so on. So they can be moderators, and they also need to transform themselves. So that's the question we were exploring with our colleagues from BCG in our recent report.
Yeah.
Anyway, the AI has that potential. My own thinking, based on like I would say very rigorous analysis of reports within the bubble, outside the bubble, and so on. I think we are dealing with something massive. I think
Yeah.
we are dealing with technology that will not go away,
Yeah.
will not disappear unless, like, the whole society collapses, unless there is a nuclear war or some Armageddon scenario. We will
Yeah.
have to deal with it and live with it.
Yeah.
So in let's say 90% chance, and it will be radical because the idea is that AI goes into most fundamental layer of our society, which is information processing,
Yeah.
which is related to what and how we learn, how we perceive reality, how we understand it, how we take decisions
Yeah.
on every level, from very personal, like what kind of meal I'm going to have this morning, or which toothbrush am I picking, to relational.
Yeah.
That especially Alpha generation, Z generation actively are using AI to counsel them
Yeah.
in everyday decisions of relationship with their parents, with their partners, and so on. It's there. It's already here. So which means that it shapes all of us
Yeah.
immediately, right now.
Yeah.
It's like not the future. And then it goes into our workspace, businesses, culture, government. So it cuts across, like, all layers of human society.
Yeah.
Even with technology we can observe right now, this is already very, very radical. It's
Yeah.
already a kind of Gutenberg press, but happening like on fast forward, like
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
20-30 times faster than Gutenberg press was
Sure. Yeah.
impacting
Yeah.
medieval Europe.
Yeah.
It's a radical transformation. We cannot and we cannot go away from it. We are all in it.
Yeah. And the opportunities then, because there's a lot of
Yeah,
emphasis on
I didn't say scary. The only thing that is scary is speed.
speed.
So
Okay. Yeah.
right now, but of course we can talk about really, a lot of people are saying, oh, AI is here, we are all doomed. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
when I'm confronting people who say this, I ask, what can you describe an exact scenario that how AI is going to wipe us out?
Yeah.
And they cannot. Like really, people who profess it, they cannot really precisely describe it. If you think about it, say, "Oh, it's going to impact our economies. We will have a financial crisis." Da da da. This is not an existential event. It's not. Um, and then they say, "Oh, but if it gets access to nuclear missiles and just launches all of them, yes, but I don't think we will." Knowing this, I don't think anyone will allow. So there is still human in the loop and will be for a very long time. And most in other scenarios are very hypothetical. Like, you can use it to develop a virus that can, kill 50% of human population. Yes, but you could before, actually. The technologies that allow us to develop this type of viruses, cheap technologies. The biotech lab that where you could develop this kind of virus costs $100,000. Right. You did not need AI to do it already for 15 years. It's already with us for 15 years. Most people don't know it, but it's there. So it's not about AI. And now, yes, of course, it can bring us really deadly kind of things. We can see how it already influenced the politics. This fake news issue is with us for a while. But the upside, let's look at the upside. That's where Protopia comes in. Sure. Let's yes, we can have all kinds of dystopias and utopias with AI. But I think we can realistically see AI as a space, on one hand, a space of learning, and on the other hand, a space for sort of liberation. And where you that's what we call in our work AI dividend. So that we receive from this optimization, from opportunity not to do boring work, we receive a kind of dividend. And the question is, where do we put it? Like, are we putting it into like our self-development, into our upgrading of our not only thinking capacities, but also like, let's say, soul capacities, relational capacities? How are we allocating our free time, our opportunities, maybe money that we earn with it, towards better or towards worse? And it's a decision that everyone in society will be taking in the next, let's say, 5 years. Increasingly, and it happens not just once, but on a and I think a lot of people will not put it to good use. By the way, it's like winning money in lottery, or like when cheap calories started to become available through food processing, sugar, wheat, and so on. A lot of people started to gain obesity. Like it's not an issue. It's not an issue just of I think we're leaning towards simpler solutions. But I say, like, let's say for those who are more consciously approaching it, let's think how we can use this for better, like for this opportunity. And then the opportunity is that there are too many problems and challenges, and including the systemic challenges that our society is facing. So can we do, for example, more weaving? Can we actually build better human communities? Can we learn with each other? Can we initiate things that we have not done in the past? Can we spread our approaches? Can we empower people that have less opportunity and less access? And then put it towards exactly regenerative transformation, peace building, care-based society, and so on. That's for me the opportunity, and I think AI actually invites us to do it. And by the way, I know that some people say, but it's controlled by corporation. No, it's not exactly so. I think what we see the tip of the iceberg. The leading AI labs are indeed corporate structures. But there is a massive open source movement and advanced open source technologies built by communities of people that just dedicate their time, their resources to do it. These models are now maybe just one step behind the leading corporate model. So in case these corporates start to try to grab and seize everything,
Yeah.
Basically, that will just help the open source movement come into the space and take over.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a great, and I can see from that why you're trying to influence government, because if government shapes the response to AI and sees it as an AI dividend, you're going to have a much more creative economy in response to the challenges you're pointing out. Wanted to pivot now to peace building, because that's also a strand of your work. And often people envision peace as a sort of static state, as freedom from war, but freedom also from tension, from division, or kind of creative friction. What's the sort of peace you envision us being able to build? Because of course now the world is melting down thanks to America's lack of leadership, and there's a lot can go wrong from now. But what's your vision around peace building at the moment?
Yeah. First of all, yeah, I agree with your diagnosis. I think it's not only lack of leadership of specific country. I think something started to shift. Like the policies of current U.S. administration is just part of it, but very, very telling. You're right. And it also tells us how to going back to your question, how focus on short-term goals and not seeing the bigger system can create awful results, especially when you're someone with that level of power. But yeah, we are on one hand, we are facing one of the most dangerous moments in human history, the highest level of conflicts since World War II. And I would say partially it happens because everyone was seeing peace as something granted. We just assumed that it will always be there. And that is not our problem. If you think of it, no corporations ever invested into peace. They just benefit from peace. But if you ask them, can you support something, they won't, because that's not our business. So everybody thinks it's a business of governments. That it should happen on the high level agreement between diplomatic structures and so on. But peace doesn't begin there. It begins in the relationship within communities. And I would say local conflicts and cultures that propagate violence gradually become dominant and escalate to these kind of decisions where peace transforms into a violent conflict. So it was actually my own question whether in a situation like the war between Russia and Ukraine, something could be done by civic society. You know, a lot of criticism was targeting civic leaders in Russia. Oh, you did not do anything. You did not stop Putin. And I'm just saying, is there any case in modern history of the last 50, 70 years where a war was stopped by civic society? And actually, you can easily discover that there is no such a case. And unfortunately, when the war starts, when tanks gets rolling or whatever, drones start flying, there is zero possibility for civic society to actually impact anything. They are silenced down. A different kind of machinery kicks in. But before that moment happens, civic society can do a lot, and they don't realize how much they can do to foster what we can call positive peace. The culture of mutual understanding, the culture of bridge building, this weaving in the first place. I have to tell you, I'm now horrified by position of European, not just politician, but civic sector towards Russia, saying, oh, they will be our enemies and there will be a war in 2030.
Yeah.
It's horrible. I mean, if you accept this, you are building towards it.
Yeah.
If no one tries to build bridges with Russia, can be dangerous. Yes,
Yeah.
well, it could be, and maybe it leadership can be dangerous. But if you don't create ways of mutual understanding, if you don't create these cultural bridges,
Yeah.
then it becomes inevitable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's unfortunately the direction. There is not enough civic initiatives that are restoring peace on the ground
Yeah.
within and between communities.
Yeah.
And the peace starts, like you said, it starts with the state of being. Like, am I at peace with myself?
Yeah.
So practicing peace, its inner peace is directly related to outer peace.
Yeah.
So we last year we published together with colleagues from Learning Planet Institute a volume called Atlas of Peaceful Future Practices, where we collected over 120 practices from different regions of the world. It's a kind of typology.
Yeah.
It includes, by the way, this regenerative economy pillar, because we think that regenerative economy is a component of peace building, and peace building is an enabler of regenerative economy. So there is a mutual relationship. And it starts with inner peace. It goes to relational practices. It goes to education. It goes to political dimension, where you need to foster horizontal relationship, empowering democracy, voice of children, by the way, voice of youth, and so on, and art and culture, and then regenerative economy, transformation of economy. They are all components of systemic peace. And what I want to say is everyone has a stake in it. Everyone can contribute.
Yeah.
That's the point. It's not about diplomats. It's not about politicians, presidents. They are just voices of their own communities that refuse to actually understand each other or make that peace, and they just manifest it. But the problem starts not with them.
So what I'm hearing in what you're saying, Pavel, is this notion of political peace, which obviously, you know, came after war and conflict, First World War, Second World War. But you're talking about systemic peace, or a peace that integrates numerous systems to help stabilize the peace, you might say, rather than a purely political project. That's what I'm hearing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a cultural evolution project. That's why a crucial key to peace building is education.
Yeah.
Because in education, we learn these patterns, we model them, we spread them.
Yeah.
And that's why I think without education, we will not have peace.
Yeah. But also, I think it's innovative and interesting to link a regenerative economy to peace, because I think that's very far-sighted in terms of even probably regenerative economists aren't necessarily thinking about peace themselves.
They actively resist thinking about it. They think, oh, it's not our business. It's not related to us.
Yeah.
Even very forward-looking players. But just to give you a note on this, Club of Rome last year published a report that exactly builds this link. So I was very glad to discover that I'm not alone in this thinking.
Yes, I bet. Yeah.
That I'll send you the name of the report after the podcast. But there to be exact, because I don't remember the exact name, but they actually talk exactly about this direct link that on one hand, wars are one of major sources of ecocide, that violent practices are fostering a violent attitude towards nature, and it kind of legitimize it.
Yeah.
But also they are. I have many cases of how violent conflicts stopped some of the most beautiful regenerative projects. So, for example, my friend from Cameroon had a beautiful, one of largest eco-villages in Africa, and he was building it for 25 years.
Right.
Until soldiers came and destroyed it.
Yeah.
As part of the military conflict, and he was educating like thousands of young African leaders in that eco-village.
Yeah.
to think regeneratively. And it was stopped like this. And now he's struggling in Portugal, trying to save some of this heritage with few hundred people that came with him to Portugal. But
Yeah.
that's what we have if
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
war happens. So war are destructive towards
Yeah.
regenerative economy on one hand. On the other hand, if you think about it, just to kind of quickly explain this, like, if you think about it, most of wars are also around the current organization of our economy, which is extractive.
Yeah.
So, for example, in Africa, most of them are around mining or access to resources and maintaining that access. And as long as we keep our extractive economic models in place,
Yeah.
wars will happen.
Yeah.
And so you need to start rebuilding economies towards regenerative economies, but regenerative economies based on regenerative mindset of everyone, including leaders.
Yeah.
That's where education comes in. So peace building and regeneration are actually two sides of the same coin,
Yeah.
two sides of the same transformation that needs to happen.
Brilliant. So I'm going to just pivot back to you, and because we started with your biography, and you've obviously been working in futurism for a number of years and had very visionary ideas. But what's often missing, from current education is a sort of, you know, spiritual practice, you could say, non-denominational, or some form of inner life that sustains one in difficult conditions. You could say this is why resilience is a big word now, because people's inner resilience or ability to navigate the complexity of the polycrisis is diminishing. What have you done as on a personal level? I mean, you mentioned a practice earlier, but what's been most influential in your life in staying anchored to the planet, you could say, in the midst of all the chaos that's going on around?
Um, I would say there were many things.
Yeah, yeah,
Cannot name just one,
yeah,
but I'll name a few.
yeah,
So I think at some moment in personal history, it's about body-mind centering kind of practices. So
yeah,
connecting the bodily dimension to this mental and observational, and practices like authentic movement were really very deep for me. And I'm a practitioner for almost 20 years in authentic movement. And part of it is about actually the way we witness and share our experiences. So practicing this on a regular basis is very, very helpful. How
yeah,
to learn to authentically, genuinely speak the truth, so to say.
yeah,
How
yeah,
to see that your body signals that maybe you are not living the life you're supposed to live, and so on.
yeah,
So that was a big transformation
yeah,
point for me. But one of maybe most crucial ones I would name is dyadic relationship. So what I call the evolutionary union.
yeah,
So I have a beautiful relationship with my wife. For many years, we've been like this kind of learning partners to each
yeah,
other and
yeah,
evolutionary partners to each other. And I think if I name one key anchor for me in
yeah,
this reality, it's our relationship and how we hold, this, how we support each other, how we it is a very specific kind of relationship because it requires you to be very honest with each other, not only in terms of like family honesty, but also like as a being to a being, like
yeah, yeah,
to recognize that something is going wrong and admit it, like in your own development, in your own path, and so on.
yeah,
But also so the key practice we were developing is called constructive conflict.
yeah,
Actually, it's how you can enter this tension in a relationship, and it can be enveloped by love. So how you can enter it and be there and still go through it and exit on the other side.
yes, yeah,
Let's say upgrade it.
yeah,
Yeah, and then I would name one more is I'm also an apprentice in indigenous ways of learning for the
Yeah.
last 8 years. I'm learning with tribes from South America,
Right.
going to families and learning with them with Shipibo tradition, and it's been very transformative for me.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
So it really expanded my view of the world radically, I would
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
because I was coming as a Western rational kind of being,
Yeah.
and it's not that I completely, abandoned that, but I
No,
just
no.
realized, okay, we know this, but it's
Yeah.
like we're living in a nice and beautiful house, but outside the house, something is going on. And what happened to me, I sometimes describe that I was living in this neat and clean and structured house, and then suddenly some of the walls fell down,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's like a whole jungle, messy space around
Yeah.
it, and then
Yeah.
like all kinds of creatures roaming around, and
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
wow, the world is much, much more complex than I ever thought.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and living in the jungle is an experience of itself. It's
Yeah.
like it is very transformative, and I'm really thankful to this contact with nature.
Beautiful. It's sort of a metaphor of like the coming collapse almost in your picture there, your
Mm,
image of how we might find ourselves exposed to realities because we've built up a civilization to protect us from that in a way.
exactly.
So, thanks so much, Pavel. Is there anything else that you'd like to say or add to listeners before we close?
No, I guess I said enough, but I'm really thankful to you, Dave, for holding this space,
Yeah, yeah,
and you are doing something that I also was considering of doing, this dialogues on
yeah,
regenerative culture and thinking. So
yeah.
I'm very thankful to you for
Great.
holding this space,
Yeah.
and I wish you all the best with it.
Well, thanks so much. It's been a pleasure. I'm going to turn the recording off now.